Hey everybody, another Warships replay, this time in the New Mexico. This is the Tier 6 US battleship, and I am in a division with Ren Nerd, who's in a Cleveland. Ended up on Hotspot, just the standard encounter version of the map. Straight away we need to decide somewhere to go, and my guns are already traversing left, and it looks like some of our team are turning to the northwest. So I decide to swing that way myself. And the other battleships follow. The New Mexico was a pleasant surprise. It's not a very pretty ship by any means, and I wasn't expecting it to be very good, because up until I got it, the US battleships were not that impressive. I guess they weren't awful, but they weren't really great. And then I got this thing. The New Mexico has 12 guns on it. From memory, I believe they are 15... Are they 15 inches? I can't recall. They might be 14 inches. But it has 12 of them, so... It also has decent anti-aircraft once you get it upgraded. Not fantastic, but good enough. And it has an absolutely outstanding amount of agility with a very fast rudder shift time and very tight turning circle. Like all of the lower tier US battleships, it's not really that fast. Its top speed's about 21 knots. But look at that turning radius. Now, I actually cut in front of our New York there, but I managed to get away with it. Or actually, sorry, our Wyoming, we didn't have any New Yorks this match. The low-tier US battleships are quite similar. The main difference is the extra turret, which you can't really see from the front. Some torps out, probably from the Mutsuki. But they're too spread and they all miss me. Keeping an eye on what the enemy are doing in the east side of the map. It looks like everyone over there is just kind of furballing in the center. And so I decide to deal with these guys first, then hook back in to the middle. Ren's got himself in a bad spot. He's getting focus fired by pretty much the entire enemy team. And here we have a Nicholas trying to make a torp run on us. Now, I probably should have reacted to this a bit quicker. Here I'm still turning to try and unmask my stern guns. Fire off my front guns and begin my turn way too late because I hesitated. I was actually turning very slightly to the left there, and then I reverse my turn, but it's too late. And I end up eating several torpedoes. Thankfully not enough to sink me, but very nearly enough to blow my magazine up. I do get away with it, and head down this channel now that the Nicholas has been dealt with. The enemy Alba is fading in and out of sight because of the smoke screen. And he's got a Colorado tagging along with him. Being a relatively easy target, I go for the Colorado. And I get some okay damage. Nothing fantastic, but I'll take it. More torps. Start making a turn. I thought I was going to eat one, but not quite. I certainly lost some paint there, but thankfully no hit points. Colorado begins a sharp turn. And I land some more hits. He has bigger guns than me, but he has less of them. He's also not got the upgraded hull, and so I actually have more hit points than he does, total. At the moment, I still have more hit points than he does, actually. I'm also more maneuverable. And another torpedo misses us. Go for the Wyoming here. Now, for some reason, every now and then the replays show a desync between the actual guns and where they're pointed. So it looks like I'm firing before my guns are even traversed. They actually were traversed on him in the match. I don't know why it didn't sync up in the replay. Anyway, everyone on the enemy team is now charged into the middle of the map. We're sort of scooping around from the west to try and reset cap and get them out of it. It's just lining up for a finisher on that Colorado when he gets wiped out by torps instead, so those shells go instead towards the enemy Wyoming. And down he goes.
Enemy battleship destroyed.
Enemy torp bombers incoming. I react perhaps a little too late, but I get away with it. It looks like that may have been a dry run. Sure enough, the torp bombers are coming around for another pass. And then they head off to land on their carrier while I put some fire on the Alba. It's not very effective fire, but it'll do. The Myoko and Mitsuki to my front are a bit more of a worry at the moment, since I am the most obvious target for them. Mitsuki begins laying a smoke screen, which is not good. It usually means there's about to be a shit ton of torpedoes coming, and sure enough, here they are. I've already turned though, so I'm pretty confident they're going to miss. Unfortunately, that salvo goes over his bow, and that one looks like it hit him at least. Enemy dive bombers are circling around overhead. Another spread of torps, but I'm able to slow myself down and make a turn to evade them. You can see the sheer amount of anti-aircraft fire coming off my ship at the moment, as the enemy carrier is really trying his hardest to get something, anything, into me. Another torpedo scratches my paint. And now the Mitsuki's time is up.
Enemy destroyer foundered.
I do get hit by some enemy dive bombers there and set on fire, but my damage repair team, or damage control team, are ready for it. The Myoko disappeared into the Mitsuki smokescreen, but he does get himself lit by firing at me.
Problem solved, sir.
And that was a bad move on his part because he's about to get killed for it. And we can see the enemy Minakaze coming in from the distance there.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Another squadron of enemy torp bombers headed this way. Pretty obviously for me. So I begin evading while my anti-aircraft guns do some work. And Tier 6 is about where the US battleships start to really get good anti-aircraft defenses, at least once you upgrade their hulls. The New Mexico starts out with very poor, minimal, almost none I think, anti-aircraft defenses, and then goes to an aircraft murdering machine. If you look at some of the higher tier US battleships like the North Carolina, the Iowa, the Montana, they have anti-aircraft ratings in the 90s. It's just outstanding. More dive bombers coming in. This carrier is basically putting out the last damage he's going to get this game, and manages to light him on fire. More dive bombers. And he is evading as best he can. Get a couple hits in there for a Confederate. Couple more, well, one more hit, not a very big one, but he's pretty much done for. My damage control team is up, and so out goes the fire, although it's probably about to burn itself out anyway. And more torpedo bombers and more dive bombers. This guy really wants to try and knock me out. It's pretty firmly in our team's grasp at the moment, or at least it appears to be. Get some decent hits into him there, and begin a turn to try and evade these torpedo bombers. Now they drop pretty far out, and it looks like at least some of the torpedoes actually landed on the beach. However, I do take a hit there. I am not sure. I don't think I drove into a torpedo. At least it didn't look like it, but whatever. I'm now flooding and on fire. Pretty much screwed. I do have some damage up, but it's just not enough to offset the fire and the flooding. My last act is to sink the aircraft carrier and down a couple more planes. You can see me going for a last desperate shot here on the Minakaze, but it just doesn't happen. Now at this point, it's a single Minakaze against a Wyoming and two Mitsukis. You would think that this would be all over. However, the Mitsukis are strung out to the southeast, having just chased the aircraft carrier that I dealt with, and the Wyoming is making the terrible mistake of trying to trade broadsides with the destroyer, because the destroyer will do this. The Wyoming sees the torps way too late and gets finished off. You really can't afford to do that unless you know the destroyer's just fired his torps and he's on reload. You cannot parallel one like that, you will die. And at that kind of distance, when you're so close to them, you just don't have the time to evade, even in a very maneuverable battleship. Thankfully, we do still have the two Mitsukis, and they are sticking pretty close together, so they'll be able to give each other some mutual support. On the whole, the Minakaze is a better ship for tier than the Mitsuki is, but they shouldn't have too much trouble handling him. It should be noted, however, that he has done the bulk of the work on the enemy team with 5 of their kills. Both our Mitsukis head into the cap. Now while the enemy Minakaze's in there, they're not going to accrue points, but they can at least force him to fight them. Pops out of his smoke for a moment. This is why you can't run towards the enemy smoking, you'll fade in and out of sight. You need to really either turn into your own smoke or reverse into it. You need smoke between yourself and the enemy. Just spitting out smoke as you charge them isn't going to cut it. Smoke screen appears to be just about set, but he's already lit and the Mitsuki's handle it.